Hello. Yeah. Hi everyone. Thank you for coming today. I want to start my talk today with a Persian poetry. بنی آدم ازای یکدیگرند که در آفرینش ز یک گوهرند چو عضو را به درد آورد روزگار دیگر عضوها را نماند قرار. Meaning, human beings are part of each other. In creation we are one essence and soul. If one part is going through pain, other parts cannot ignore their pain. If you don't have sympathy for others' pain, are you even worth called being human being? This poetry is from a Persian poet, Sadi Shirazi. He's a very well-known poet in my country. The stories as it goes, one of the days he was busy with praying by the tomb of Prophet Yahya in Damascus, this very long time ago, obviously. And one of the Arab kings came to him and asked him to pray on his behalf because this king was notorious, known for his injustice. And that is when he wrote this poetry, because it doesn't matter if you're a king or if you're an ordinary person. If you don't care about human beings, you're not even worth being called a human being. My name is Noor Faizi. I'm 24 years old. I fled my country 8 years ago with my family to come to the Netherlands. If you look at the history of my country, war has not been a foreign concept to us. Afghanistan has always been busy with war because of other people or because of our own people. And I'm a child of war. I was born in Pakistan because my family had to flee the country because of the civil war, and they had to live in Pakistan for 10 years. They come back, obviously, after the war ended in the hope of rebuilding their country, like so many else. And I grew up in a country with the aftermath of war. My parents always used to tell us stories about how life was when they were growing up in Afghanistan, and I could never imagine that because the country that I grew up was so different than the country they grew up in. My parents, both of them, were the first people to go to university in their family, and which their parents were so proud of it, obviously, but especially my father, because he came from a very simple family. My mom was a daughter of general, so she got the education. And he always used to tell a story of how my grandfather, from my dad's side, didn't want to allow my aunts to go to high school because back in the day, before the war, the girls had this uniform of short skirts and shirts, and he was a very traditional and religious man, so he didn't like that. But my father stood up for his sisters and convinced my grandfather to allow them to go to university, to go to high school, and like furthermore. And that concept was such a foreign concept to me because when I grew up, I was very lucky that I grew up in with very educated parents and an open-minded family, while other people were not so um, lucky. I saw a lot of my male cousins, a lot of like male figures in my life, excluding my father, that did not see any point to women doing education or even to education itself. And it's very heartbreaking because this is what war does to a country. The stories that my parents used to tell me were definitely not like this. Back in their time, people were hopeful. There were universities, there were schools, people were changing. And even though my grandfather was a traditional man, he did see that, oh, the world is changing. My children are changing, so I cannot hold on to my old ways. War is not only about people dying, it's also what it does to the survivors, to what it does to a country's culture, to people. It can shape people's beliefs, their personalities. it can make them so afraid of change and hope. And that is exactly what happened to my country and my people. Um, my mom has been a very different person before the war and after war. Growing up, I had so many clashes with her because she always was so afraid of changing. She didn't want to change. She didn't want her children to change because change was such a scary concept for her. But the more I grew up, the more I understood her, why she was the way she was. She went through so much in life. She experienced when Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan. She experienced civil war since 1970s. That's been going on and off in Afghanistan. She has lost so many people in her life, and I understand why after a while going through so much in life you no longer want to change, or you see change as this very negative and foreign concept. I understand now, but back in the day, I didn't understand that. The reason I'm here today is the reason I am sharing this my story with each one of you is because I want people to understand what war does to a country. Our schools were destroyed, our universities were destroyed, our freedom was taken from us because of the war. And then the world looked to us and said, why are you so underdeveloped? Why don't you let your daughters educate? Why are you so close-minded? Look at our history. Maybe that is the reason. Look at what we've been through. Maybe that is the reason. I want each one of you to understand that today why I'm sharing this story is not because I want your sympathy. It's because I want your understanding. When you look at other countries and other countries' people, and when you say, what is wrong with them? Why do they think like that? Go search their history. See what they've been through. And that's it. Thank you all for coming today. Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Thank you so much, Somia, for sharing your story with us, Children of War. You've already explained why you wanted to share your story in the first place. Because you wanted to basically change people's mind about their assumptions that they made about people who come from a place of war. I wanted to ask you, in Avondstop we spoke about growing up between two cultures. Is that something you can relate to as well? You can talk. You can talk in the mic. You can talk in the mic.
Well, definitely growing up, I had a lot of troubles because I was not a very traditional girl, and that was a problem living in a country like Afghanistan. I was supported by my parents, but the society itself was what they've been through and everything was very close-minded towards women. So I'm very grateful that I am here today, that I have the freedom that I have today, and I can relate to many of things in this culture. But I'm kind of like in the middle because I'm too Afghan for Dutch people. I'm too Dutch, a little bit Dutch to Afghan people because I'm not a very traditional person, but I'm also like very connected to my roots.
Is that confusing or empowering?
It's definitely empowering. It totally depends on you, I guess, how you put it and how you use it. For me, it is empowering. Yeah. Definitely.
Because you can brag about Dutch cuisine, our foods that are so good. Definitely should use that as a as a virtue. I was also wondering, did your mom's fear of change made you want to change more in life or rebel, maybe?
Definitely. Yes. I've been a very rebellious child from beginning. That's why I clash so much with my mother. I think I'm very much my mother's daughter. We have the same personality, so that's why we clash a lot. But while my mom has been very strong throughout the life, she's been also, maybe because of the war and things she's been through, very stubborn on her own ways, how things should be done. And I think that's also that made me want to change one even more.
Yeah, I see. Also, I want to go, okay, if you can give me your clicker, through your slideshow.
Oh my God, I forgot my picture.
No worries about it. That's all right. We didn't need any pictures, but I just thought maybe if you want to click through them,
Yes.
and maybe tell something about what we see on these pictures.
Yes, so these pictures are before the civil war that happened in Afghanistan, 1970s. And yeah, people were just chilling back then. Life was good. And yeah, it was good. Can't relate to that, but this is what I grew up with. Well, this is like actually from very recent times that Taliban took over. I wasn't living in Afghanistan back then, like 2, 3, 4 years ago. But yeah, it's very unfortunate that what my country changed into. So that's why I wanted to share these pictures.
What is it like to experience that from afar, in a way? I mean, I can imagine that also you might feel powerless watching that sort of unfold so far away from home, even though it's also still home.
Well, yeah, it is. It is very hard to explain because growing up, I never intended. Oh, I'm gonna go to Europe or to the Netherlands one day. I want to stay in my country. I want to do my education. I want to work there, and then we had to flee. And in a way, in a sense, I do feel guilty that I left my country instead of staying there and fighting for my rights. So that is the thing that always is here. And when everything happens in my country at the moment, I do feel like helpless because I can't do anything about it except just share awareness. And even then, I notice that people are so used to Afghanistan being like this that nobody's interested anymore. Which I understand in the point of view, like if a country is like since 1970s and war, it's no longer something new, but it's something new for me.
Yes, every time you see that, you think, oh, that's happening to you in a way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Are there any questions in the audience? People that want to? Yes, I'm going to go upstairs. This is a workout for me. This is great. See?
Hi, I'd like to thank you and the other two speakers as well very much for sharing your stories. I'm trying to formulate the question, but I really appreciate you sharing your stories, and I agree with you. I want to learn more about history, and I teach here. I want to learn more about students. But this is a fabulous environment to learn, but I find it really difficult in day-to-day life what I can and should ask and not ask. So I'd love to hear yours or the other speakers' tips on that. For example, I had one student from the Ukraine showing me things sometimes, but other times didn't want to talk about it. So when you may get the feeling sometimes people don't care, I'd like to ask in this environment, sometimes I get the feeling I don't know when I can ask and what I can ask and how I can learn.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your question. Well, first of all, what I really meant is because, like, I really don't want people to assume things about other people. That is the first thing, because people should not assume that just because people are living there, they're stupid or they're not intelligent. It's just what they're going through and the situation they are right now made them who they are. And I feel like personally for me, I encourage people asking me about the situation in my country. I would love to explain matters from my perspective. That has always been encouraging, but I understand that some people might feel emotional about it. And to be honest, like if you ask questions every time, that's the best you can do. And if the person wants to talk about it, they will definitely like give you a good example. I mean, good explanation. But if they don't, they will tell you like I don't feel comfortable about it. And it's definitely like how you ask it, because it can sometimes like very not nice the way some people ask some question about it, because I had this experience of somebody telling me, "Oh, you're very intelligent from where you come from. You're very intelligent from like how would say from someone from Afghanistan." And I was like, "The reason I came here is not because I'm stupid. I always knew I was intelligent. I had problems that I came here. That's the whole thing." So I think it's definitely about like the way you ask questions.
Do you guys want to maybe elaborate on, because your topics are also very relevant in order for people to ask questions about, whether that's racial inequality, racism, or maybe your story as well, Abel? Do you guys want to add something to that question and say, in what way can you approach students that have been through things that are not so comfortable to approach?
Well, interesting question. I'd say don't approach them. I'd say don't. Just let people talk to you. It's okay to not have an answer or not know how to approach some things. And sometimes it's better to let the bird fly your way instead of chase it.
Thank you so much. Do you want to add something to that, Alan? No? Is there any last question in the audience? For Somia, for any of the other speakers? Right now is the moment, guys. Yes?
Are we allowed just not to ask the question, but say how extremely wonderful it was to listen to you? I really hope you're going to carry on doing this. I'd really like to hear more. So I remember two of you as students from 3 years ago,
Yeah.
and just how you've turned into these amazing people. Older
that's so
amazing
nice.
people. You always were amazing people, but now you're older amazing people. And
Thank you.
it makes me actually very proud to work here.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.